What's up, family? Another beautiful day giving thanks and praise to the radio, wherever you would conceive him or her to be. For me, it's yet another beautiful day. Listen, I'm going to drop some information here on some technology by a boy called Greg Burden. Greg Burden dropping some good technology here on what the future holds for humans. If we don't change, there will be no, we will be the last generation, folks. If we don't change, we will be the last human generations. So you're going to drop some knowledge here on technology and how far it is going between now and 2030. Okay, folks, hang in there, folks.
With technology has gained so much steam that unless we change the way we think, by the year 2030 there will be no pure humans. We're about to give our humanness away forever. The discovery made in Qumran called the Dead Sea Scrolls. We are part of an ancient battle between the sons of darkness and the sons of light. We humans are the prize. We have access to a force that no other form of life has access to. We must awaken the truth of our humanness to triumph in that battle. What does that mean? We are not the product of Darwin's idea of evolution. We are the product of an intentional act, a higher intelligence. But this goes even deeper. When you look into the ancient temples, in the innermost layer is where the greatest wisdom was held. What were our ancestors trying to say to us? When they said our body is a temple, every cell of our bodies holds the DNA with the secret. It tells us who we are. Now, where this gets really interesting, every cell has the same message. It literally says,
by 2030, he said humanity faces a real choice point: awaken or hybridization. Can you describe the difference between these two paths, and how did we as a species get here?
yeah, well, that's two questions that you just asked. The 2030 date comes from a number of different places. Author, inventor, one of the lead engineers at Google AI, Ray Kurzweil, released a book earlier this year. We're speaking in 2024, late 24. He released his book in early 24. It's called The Singularity. And it is a book from an engineering perspective, from his perspective as a futurist, about where we're going with technology, where we're going with AI. When you mention this from my perspective, I am talking about this from the transhuman perspective. And I know many of our guests are familiar with the term, but maybe some are not completely sure what it means. The word trans simply means beyond. So trans anything, it means beyond. So transhuman means more than human. And what Ray Kurzweil is saying is that the momentum that is merging biology with technology in general, and that is merging human biology with technology specifically, that momentum has gained so much steam that unless we reel it in, unless we change the way we're thinking, unless we have regulations, by the year 2030, there will be no pure humans on the planet any longer. When you talk to someone in the grocery store or in the market or on the street, you'll be speaking to a human that in some way, in some degree, and we'll talk about what this means, but to some degree, they are a hybrid form of life because they have allowed or accepted or had imposed upon them technology into their bodies in some way. That technology can range from computer chips in the brain that allow us to communicate with our devices with no wires, no cables. It's like a Bluetooth-like technology. That technology was recently approved in the United States by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. So that opened the door to, in America, to this advancement. Could be sensors in the body. We already in the medical community, we have nanobots, tiny robots about the size, smaller than a grain of rice, that can be injected into the bloodstream. And the nanobots are actually almost micro nanobots that move through the bloodstream and transmit information, biometrics, outside the
And
body.
that
We
wasn't
already
getting
have
into you
those.
when you get the
Could be
jab.
sensors under
When
the
you get the
skin.
jab,
It
yeah,
could be chemicals
they
in
said
the
it was
blood to mimic
nanotechnology
a human immune
inside the
system.
jab.
It could be an RFID chip. And there are nations now that are outpacing America. I'm coming to you today from our studio. This is just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, here in the U.S. There are some nations that are outpacing America in terms of the blending of this technology with humans. Sweden is one of those where the RFID chips are being encouraged in the civilian population, sometimes through corporations, sometimes for medical reasons, but on that RFID chip is all the information that is needed. So, for example, the corporations put the security cards in the wrist, and so somebody comes to work, and they push their wrist up against against the chip reader. There was an article that came out recently. There was and this is extreme. I'm not aware of many of these, but there was a guy that had 15 RFID chips implanted into his body, and his take was, he said he's never felt freer. He said because when he leaves the house, he doesn't need a wallet, doesn't need a credit card, doesn't need cash, doesn't need his company ID, doesn't need a driver's license, because it's all embedded into his body. So what Ray Kurzweil is saying is, unless something changes by the year 2030, we will be, well, I'm going to back up a half a step. At the 2022 World Economic Forum meeting, WEF, one of the keynote speakers, Yuval Harari, and I know many of our community are familiar with his work. He was saying that unless we change the way we think, we most probably are the last generation of what he called pure humans to walk this earth. Ray Kurzweil then takes this to the next step that supports the theme of his book. His book is called The Singularity. In physics, in astrophysics, the singularity describes a time in our ancient past, before the Big Bang, when all matter was connected. And then it began, through this primal release of energy, it began to separate, and it began to expand. The universe began to expand. The time everything was connected was called the singularity. He uses that term to describe where we're going with technology, when everything on the face of the earth will be represented digitally, and it will be run and administered and regulated through a massive AI system. So everything, all the forests will be digitized, all the animals in the forest, all of the sea life, every human, what we eat, what we consume, the nutrients that we take, where we travel, what we purchase, how often we purchase, all will be part of this internet of all things called the singularity. And he says that will be in our lifetimes. It will be by the year 2045. So I'm answering, that's a long answer to your short question. I have a new book that is coming out in January, and it is called Pure Human. And it is my pushback on everything that we've just said. And I want, if somebody's just tuning into this podcast, I want to be really clear. I'm describing where we're headed. I am certainly not in favor of where we're headed. And as a matter of fact, there's something even more at stake here, Amrit, and that is our very humanness is on the line. And many people don't even know what it fully means to be human. Our science doesn't even understand that we're about to give our humanness away forever, before we even know what that means. And the reason I say that is because once we accept the technology into our bodies, it's really interesting. It's not like a little dial, where you can say, well, let's try a computer chip in the brain, that's it, for the immune system. Let's do that for a year, and if it doesn't work, we'll just undo it. It doesn't work that way, because the way the human body works, the way biology works, when new circumstances are introduced into a biological system, this is the beauty of biology, is that system will morph and adapt to that new whatever it is, if it's a new chemical in the blood or if it's a chip in the brain. And the body will morph and adapt, and in that adaptation, we are no longer like we used to be. We can't go back. There are cells in the body that stop working because the body believes that there's no demand for that function because the chemical or the chip or the AI is doing that function for them.
Take over.
So this is how you lose the species. And the Ray Kurzweil, when he writes about this, he's a really interesting guy.
It's about 2 hours long, so if you want to see the whole thing, here you go, look.
His answer surprised me because he said,
If you want to see the whole thing,
engineer, I'm a tech guy.
right here.
Go ask a social engineer what it means for society. I'm just telling you where the technology is.
If you want to see the whole thing, go to YouTube.
To do this, unless somebody reels it in.
Type that in, and there it
This
is.
is where we're going. I
So, like I said, it's about
for society. That
almost
was
2 hours long.
essentially- I'm paraphrasing, but
And
that
then,
was essentially his
okay,
answer.
folks. So until then, folks.
So there are everything.
Until then, folks, be aware, be knowledgeable, be informed,
The answer to the question
and keep doing your research. Don't believe nothing I'm showing you.
is the
Do your own research, folks. I'm out there. Peace out. Subscribe,
And let me
comment,
talk to you a little bit about
share the
why we
videos.
got
I'm out there. Peace out. Lots of love.
from a number of different places.